Hi, this tutorial will cover some of the basic features of using a Mac for the first time. Let me just close this. So when you first switch on a Mac, you arrive at this place called the desktop, this lovely big blue screen with all the icons down the bottom. Now this area with the icons is actually called the dock, and this is where you can open up any program you want, like for instance Photoshop. If I just click on that once, it does a little bounce and you can see Photoshop is now launching. This is great. If you ever want to go back to the desktop, you just click in the blue area again, and there you are back at the desktop. On a keyboard, if you go and press Command and Tab, it'll show you what programs are open at the moment. And so you can actually use the Tab key to go through each program. So if you want to go back to Finder, you can let go there. If you want to go back to Photoshop, you can let go there and you're in Photoshop. It's a nice little shortcut actually. So let's just stay with the Finder. Now most people when they start off using a Mac, they have to be familiar with the hard drive. So up in the right hand corner here, you've got the hard drive, which if you double click it, this is what's on a Macintosh hard drive usually. Now the other thing that you may or may not know, these little coloured circles, top left hand corner of any window that you open, do different things. The red one I think is obvious. If you click on the red circle, it'll close the window. If you click on the orange one or the yellow one, it'll minimize it, and this will actually just enlarge the window to its maximum size. So let's say for instance I want to click on the orange one, which is the middle one. The window, I don't know if you saw that, it slipped down to the bottom here and minimized itself. There it is again. And I can close it just by clicking on the red circle. So that's really good to know. Another useful feature is creating a new folder. Now with TAFE, most students work straight off the desktop. So if you take your mouse and right click anywhere on the blue screen, this pop-up will come up here and you can actually choose a new folder and then type your name. So let's say your name is Bill Bailey, which as you know mine isn't, but that's my alias. You've got a nice brand new empty folder, and you can now save all your work to that. The other thing that is useful to know is how to get rid of stuff. So if I now drag that folder to the bin, which is the trash can, and let go, it's now dumped. Another way of creating a new folder, if you don't want to do the old right click trick, is go up to File, and you can see there you've got new folder. You've even got a keyboard shortcut for new folder, which is Shift Command N. So let's just try that. Let's see if that works. I'm just going to let go of the menu and go Shift Command N, and there it is. A new folder has landed on my desktop. I can now rename it straight away, Bill Bailey, and I can even move it to the middle of the screen if I want to. Quite useful. Now over here on the right hand side of the screen, I've got my portable external hard drive, which I've named Icon 2011. That's just a Western Digital Passport type drive. If I double click that, you can see what's in it. I've got my stuff, I've got stuff for MIT, and I've got my blog stuff there as well. Pardon me. I could, if I wanted to, go to this little icon here, the one that performs different tasks, and I can pop that down by pressing on it and choose new folder from there. And I can then rename that whatever I want. So there's lots of ways of creating a new folder. You just choose the one that is best for you. I might just select Bill Bailey, and instead of dragging it to the bin, I might just on my keyboard press Command and the Delete key together. Command Delete, and it's now gone to the bin. Let me just open up my stuff. And you can see there's lots of different stuff in there, different icons. At the top of the window, it gives me a few options of how to display the contents of a window. So if I don't want icons, I can click on the second icon and I get a list. And let's say I want to go into my freelance work. I can then drop down the arrow and you can see the contents. This is very similar to Windows on a PC. This third icon gives me the sort of Windows Explorer option of going into a folder, and then just constantly opening it up, and you can see every level is displayed in these different columns, which some people prefer rather than having lists or columns. And then this fourth icon gives you kind of like almost a like a visual display. I'll just pick a folder that's a bit more prettier than that. Let's go into photography. How about family photos? What have we got here? We've got that one there. All right. And this will give me just a nice visual display of whatever is in that folder, the contents of the folder. And I'm just using the left and arrow keys on my keyboard to toggle through the contents. You can see down the bottom it's showing me which one I'm on. And it actually tells me the date, it tells me the size, it tells me that's a JPEG file. It's quite useful. Alright, so I'm just going to close that window and go back to the desktop. And let's assume that we now want to create a new document in Photoshop. So I can just go back to Photoshop by clicking on the icon, or I can press Command Tab and choose it from there. So I can go Command Tab and then let go on Photoshop. And if I choose New, we are now in a brand new setup for Photoshop. And depending on what I want, I can click OK. And we end up with a brand new canvas in Photoshop where I can start creating my artwork. And that's really important. It's also important to know how to save on a Mac. So I can go to File. This is very similar to a PC. I can go down to Save As, and it'll ask me where do I want to put it. I'll give it a name first. So save as, let's just call it Postcards. Oops, spell it correctly, Con. And down on the left hand side, I know that my folder is on the desktop, so I can choose the desktop. There's Bill Bailey. If I wanted to save it directly to my portable drive, I can choose the little yellow icon there. I can go into My Stuff, I can choose the folder that I want, and I can just click on Save from there. But for now, I'll just go to Desktop, click on Bill Bailey, and click on Save. And this is a JPEG file, so I'll just click OK. I can now quit Photoshop. And if I open up the Bill Bailey folder, and change the view to list or icon, there's the document that I just saved. It's saved in the Bill Bailey folder on the desktop. So that's a pretty good way of saving your documents. And then if it was the end of the day and I want to go home, I can simply just drag that whole folder to my Icon portable hard drive. So I'll just do that again. You just drag it to your portable USB drive and you can back it up. So now I've got a backup copy here, and I've got a backup copy on the Macintosh desktop. And that's really important to have a backup copy on a portable drive, USB drive, and one on your desktop. Okay, now a few other things that you may or may not know about the Macintosh. If you look at the top of your keyboard, there's all these function keys. And the first two function keys, F1 and F2, are for the brightness and contrast of your screen. Now, I don't know if this is working, but you can see that you can really make your screen quite bright. The recommended level of brightness, believe it or not, is 4 to 5 bars, which is about that dark. Now, a lot of students don't like that. They actually want to go right up to full, because they prefer it to be nice and bright. But the problem with having it too bright is that when you do eventually output your files or your images to print, they do come up rather dark. So it's better to have the brightness level at about 4 or 5 bars, and then what you see on the screen usually turns out pretty close to the same when you print. Now, next to the brightness keys on your keyboard, you've got this F3 option. Okay, and what that does, if I can just show you, it does nothing at the moment. If you had a few programs open, let's say you had Photoshop open, you had Word open, and maybe even PowerPoint open. Okay, so all these software programs are now opening. If you press the F3 key, it shows you each document. So here's Word, here's PowerPoint, and where's Photoshop? There's Photoshop. You can actually toggle from one to the other depending on where you want to go. So I can click on each one. I'm just pressing F key at the moment, F3. I'm a bit tired today, so that's why I'm mucking up the words. And you can toggle from one to the other. It's great. This one next to F3 is F4, and this brings up what they call widgets. And you've got things like a calculator, you've got a calendar, and you've got the clock. And you can add all sorts of widgets, internet websites and all sorts. And again, at the touch of a finger, you can activate any one of these. Just by pressing F4, you can make it appear or disappear. It's pretty good. So F3 is for the applications, and F4 is for the widgets, which are like utilities. Alright, well let's leave it at that. I might just show you how to quit programs. You can go, of course, to each program. Where you see the name, PowerPoint, you can just choose Quit PowerPoint or Command Q. Same with Word, there's Word, you can quit Word, and we won't quit that because that's my recording device. And the same with Photoshop, you can just go Photoshop and quit. And that's it. Look, it's a bit clumsy, I know, I'm a bit tired, bit of a late night, but I hope you enjoyed that, and it wasn't too fast, but see how we go. Okay, bye.